Okay, so welcome back. This is Terminal Period Hustle here in pursuit of perfection, and it has been a while. Yeah, so a lot, a lot has been going on since the about 1 year that we've been away. A lot happened, and I just want to catch you guys up on all the things that have been going on in my life, and part of the reason why you have not been seeing me and my regular bi-weekly updates, my bi-monthly prayers, and my usual birthday prayer session. All those things happen for a while. They didn't happen last year when we got to the birthday one, and some other things here and there. And what had happened what happened was I'm sure you're seeing me moving my hands a lot. Yeah, so I actually got married, and after getting married, or rather before getting married, a lot of stuff was going on with me that I had to just basically make some adjustments. And unfortunately, there was such a crunch on my time in that moment that I couldn't actually, with good conscience, make those videos that I used to make, because those videos had a lot of preparation, a lot of time, that I had to put into them, not just the concepts, but with my thoughts all together, to know that what I'm saying is what I receive, and I'm not just just spouting some things from my mind. So I found out that I was not focused enough to be able to bring that into manifestation. And you can actually see my face now, because for a few months before I even stopped, I had some technical issues. My primary recording device was giving me headaches, so I couldn't actually make videos. So I was limited to audio only versions of my work. And it was a bit limiting for me, because that's not what I wanted. But glory be to God, I was able to get something new that works now, and we are here. Yeah, so as I'm sure you're seeing from the title of the video, I'm going to be talking to you basically about how I got from being single and getting to the point of being married in 9 months. Yeah, it was a pretty short period of time, and yeah, you get to see my wife. Say hi, wife.
Hi everyone, I'm Amaka. I'm pregnant wife.
So it was just a little bit of back and forth and here and there, but I'm just going to be showing you a bit of the journey. I'll put in some clips of the wedding, from the traditional marriage to the wedding in church. Maybe I'll just put up the trailer for the wedding here. It was a lot that happened actually, and it was a lot for me personally. I did a lot. There was a lot of weight on my shoulders, and also the weight on the shoulders of my wife. We had to navigate moving houses at different points. One person's contract ending, another person's contract not ending in our apartment, and so many other things that came together. But that's not really the point of the video. So I just want to catch you up on a couple of things and what happened. So let's rewind to somewhere about, I believe it was October or November 2024. Yes, October, November 2024. And before that time, I had just started getting the feeling from God that maybe it is time for me to settle down. Like, for me, when new seasons are coming into my life, it's a little bit different. Like, I don't usually hear a word from God say, now is the time, pray, move. but I believe the Reverend Kenneth Hagin would always say there's an inward witness, right? So I would usually get an inward witness about when I am about to step into a new level, or when I say new level, I mean move into a new like phase of life or something like that. So what happened was I had started getting that feeling that maybe now is the time, because I had been without a relationship. I don't want to say I was single, but I was without any sort of relationship for 3 years prior to that. After a long-term relationship I ended before that in 2021. And I had told myself that any relationship I get into again was going to be one that was going to be marriage. So I had a lot of push and pull. Obviously, we get attracted to people and all those kinds of things, but I couldn't just put my finger on it. Like anytime I came across somebody, no matter how good or fantastic or awesome they were, I just always felt as though there was something missing. And so I had not got that inward witness that the time was right. So when I did get that inward witness that the time was right, the question started popping up. So okay, who, and there were a few ladies in my life. I counsel some people, some wonderful people. So you might think maybe you might just consider one of those people. And God hits me out from left wing with the choice that He gave me, because I'm a bit of a withdrawn, personal kind of person. So I'm not one that will just go out there and start hitting up place like, hey, how you doing? But I was just looking around, talking to people here and there, not necessarily making intentions. And then I've actually known my wife for a long time. I've known her for more than 10 years. We've been attending the same church for about 10 years plus. And I had never really given her too much thought when it came to relationship. But the funny thing about it is that a few years back, God had shown me in a dream, and He showed my wife coming to me to talk to me about some stuff. And when she came to me, like I came out of that dream having some kind of notion, like, and somewhere in my mind told me, this might be something relationship, but I was so not ready for a relationship at that point in time, like so not ready. So I just said, you know what, I'm sure she just wants someone to mentor her. I'm sure she just wants someone to mentor her. So I made myself available, and we became close via the mentorship, right? We were already a bit close, but we came even much closer. So in that season, she felt more open to tell me things, and we just kept up the whole communication when it comes to that particular thing, the relationship, the things that were going on in her life, advice on how she can make some decisions and all those kind of things. And that was just it. And honestly, when the initial thought came to choose a wife, she was not number one on the list at that point in time. And I just went and I started asking questions. I started asking questions of leaders, asking questions of mentors, asking questions of friends who know me and know people around me. Like, okay, so what do I think? Some people had offered, introducing me to people, but I was like, no long distance relationships. I don't want to do that again, because my previous one was a long distance relationship. I didn't want to do that. And it was just one of those things, and I was just going round and round and round and round and round. And then fast forward till I believe it was October, and myself and my wife had planned to go on some sort of dinner, obviously just as friends and everything, but because I go out with people, I hang out, I'm a cool guy. And so it has been something that has been getting postponed for one reason or the other. Our square schedules not quite lining up. So sometime in October, I believe, we just kind of said, no, let's just do this thing. And so we went out and we're having dinner and we're just talking about some random stuff, But at that point in time, she was already one of the people I was interested in, but we're just trying to feel her out. And she made a very bold statement. we had been talking, we had gone about halfway through the time of our dinner. She just comes up and asks me, like, I just want to ask you a question, like, are you interested in me? And in as much as I knew I was not ready for any sort of relationship at that point in time, and I was also not ready to give definition to anything that we are about to do, I couldn't say no to her. And the funny thing was that, it was in a similar season that I had been asked the same question from someone else, and I couldn't answer that same question. I couldn't answer the question, not because I wasn't interested, but I found out that somewhere in my mind, it just didn't come together for me to be able to say yes to that question. Like, it was so weird. But for her, it was easy for me to say, yes, I'm interested in you, right? And I said, yes, I'm interested in you. And she was like, okay, interesting. And then we had our dinner, but I told her that interest has many definitions, many ways to look at it. And I was going to give her a definition of what my interest meant at a later date, right? So, November passes and December comes, and it's about my birthday, so we now agree another time that we're going to hang out just after my birthday. And I tell her, okay, so in that outing we went to some cafe and we were going to talk, and I told her I'm going to tell her what exactly I was interested in her for. And we sat down, we looked at each other, and I told her, okay, yeah, I'm interested in you, but what I'm interested in is for us to get married. And I told her I didn't want to be her boyfriend, I didn't want to do the whole hullabaloo, this one, that one. We can get to know each other now in a more intimate way, get involved and everything. And I told her I wanted to get married as soon as possible, pending obviously family coming together and all those things. I told her I wanted to get married as soon as possible, not because I felt like I had to get married, I can't wait, but I didn't want to stretch out the relationship. Reason being, one, there's room for us to make mistakes. Reason being, we have so many things that could come to mind. Trying to create the perfect thing sometimes also just gives us opportunities to, just, I'm sorry to say, make fools out of ourselves. So in that regard, I told her, look, I don't want to be a boyfriend, I don't want to see how things go. If you feel like you're ready to get married, then let me know. And she took her, when I say she took her time, I told her she should go home, think about it, and when she's ready, she should get back to me. So I think it was a week later, we met up again, and she told me, okay, she came with a book. Oh God. Yeah, so she came with a book, and in that book she had questions. I believe they were 16 or 20 or something like that. And she had questions that she needed answers before we proceeded, because she had come with the intention to tell me yes, right? But she still had to, dot her I's and cross her T's. So it was a very insightful conversation, because what we did was a tell-all. Basically, anything that our normal conversations did not bring forth came up in those questions, our personal lives, financial situation, job situations, academic situations, all those kinds of things. All of them just came out, in that conversation, because we had to have those things answered. We needed to know what we were getting into with each other, before we started talking about any other thing. This was December. And with that whole thing, we were planning to get married as soon as possible. So now we've decided, both of us, we've agreed, and we had to go to leadership, we had to go to our mentors, we had to go to our parents to tell them, okay, so this is what we've decided. Leadership, we're okay with it in the church, because we both attend the same church. They were okay with the relationship. We submitted ourselves to counseling, and then we made it known to our parents, and for me, it was when parents love their child so much, they don't want to give them away to somebody they've not met or they know nothing about, because they knew nothing about me. So there was a time for me to get to know her parents, and for them to become more accepting of who I am. And then we just made our way forward from there. Fast forward, like I said, 9 months till December, which a lot of stuff happened in between. And maybe I'll get into that in the next video, because this is going to be a two-part series talking about the stuff that happened in the wedding. And I just want to bring the whole thing to a head, mostly focusing on the fact that whenever we want to get something done and it is God's will for that thing to get done, things happen and they happen pretty quickly. Because it was really weird, because I was not in the best financial state when I decided I want to get married. Like, let the Nigerian in me come at that time, shishi and no get. Like, I was not financially ready for the decision, in the sense of making a wedding, right? I was not ready for that decision. But I knew that I had to do something. We had to move quickly. So it was a lot that happened, and that leads me to what I was saying about why I was away from the videos, because I took a second job to be able to raise funds even a bit faster to meet up with our wedding. Because leading up to the wedding, my wife had a dream, and in the dream she was getting married in June, and we wanted to have the wedding in Cyprus, small thing, close friends, family if they can travel, and just do the wedding, celebrate, and be done with it, But yeah, family were not they were not happy with their decision. So after a bit of back and forth, we settled on October, and there was a reason why we settled on October. Because my mom was celebrating her 70th birthday, and I'll just put up some pictures and videos here. And with the celebration of her 70th birthday, we had an opportunity where all the family was going to be together. So my brother, my sisters, a lot of uncles and aunties were going to be in Nigeria to celebrate my mom. And we felt like if there was no better time actually for us to have that meeting, because all of the families are available. Because any other time it could have happened in the year, a lot of family would have needed to make it. People have varying work schedules, to make time, to take time off work and all that, to travel. It's not really easy for everybody to be able to do that. So, October was the one time where we could all make it work. And it was a lot, to try and fit into October, because myself and my wife were only in Nigeria for about 2.5 weeks, because we came a few days to my mom's birthday. We landed in Nigeria a few days to my mom's birthday, and the week after my mom's birthday was the wedding, the white wedding, one in church, and the traditional wedding was in between that. So it was my mom's birthday Saturday, traditional wedding on Wednesday, and the church wedding on Saturday. And then we left the following week. So it was a really short trip. So a lot happened, and so I had to take up a second job just to raise more funds to pay for things, and we also had to figure out moving houses, because like at some point I was paying rent in 2 places. It was crazy, like because we had to because we couldn't wait till when we come back from Nigeria, and then we'll now start looking for a new apartment to stay in. So I was still living where I was living before, and then I had to pay rent in a new apartment, because my wife's contract in her former apartment got expired. She had to find a new place, so we had to find a new place together, right? So I had to pay rent in the 2 apartments at the same time. That was great. Yeah, and then we had to pay for so many things for the wedding, and the truth is, like, I didn't raise enough money. Like, it was so interesting. Like, when I got to Nigeria, even getting to Nigeria was a miracle. Like my siblings paid for our flight tickets. It was because we planned to have the wedding in Cyprus, small thing, just we did not budget going to Nigeria. We didn't budget going to Nigeria, so all those things came as a bit of a shock, and there was very little that we could do, So, like because we wanted to have a small wedding, that was half our budget just on flights, and it was crazy. But my siblings really, they stood up for us and they made that possible. But the miracles of funds were crazy. Honestly, the miracle of funds were crazy. My pastor here in Cyprus also did a lot for me, honestly. Like I was blown away. And I didn't really expect so much. Like, I'd heard people say, things happen, people come, but I didn't know where it was gonna come from. And I didn't have anybody to think about. So the only person I could think about was God. So every day I'll turn to God. I'll be like, God, like, I don't know what you want to do. I don't know how you want to do it, but I need help. Like, I really need help. And I got to that point where all I could just do was trust God that one way or the other it was going to happen. And honestly, I was blown away because people were like, oh, you're getting married. Oh, that's so fantastic. And I wouldn't expect anything, and somebody would just wire me some money. Oh, you're getting married, I'm so excited. Wire me some money. Oh, this, oh, that. Wire me some money. And I'm like, jeez. Like, I could be thinking about how we're, scratching our heads, trying to figure out some certain things, trying to, pay for this, pay for that, pay for this before we got to Nigeria, pay for our outfits, pay for catering, pay for decorations. And then when we got to Nigeria, it was such a windfall. Like, it was such a windfall. Like, it was so amazing how people just came through from unexpected sources, from close family, from friends. Honestly, I was taken aback. I really was. So it was what it was, and here we are. At the time of speaking, we've been married for 5 months. It's been a great time, and I'm grateful to God for how we got to this point. In the next video, I'm going to talk about some things, how we were able to convert a more passive relationship into a more active relationship that was focused on us getting married at the end of it all. Because I believe there are mistakes that people make in relationship generally, not just quick fire ones. There are mistakes that people make in relationships generally that I feel like it causes a lot of pain, and causes people to be stuck in places where they don't want to be. And I'm speaking specifically about Christian relationships. I'm not speaking about what happens in the world, because that was one thing I didn't want to get into. I didn't want to get into a worldly relationship. I didn't want ourselves to be stuck in a loop of doing what people normally do. And that's why it was quite important for us to have that focus from the beginning as to, okay, we are getting married, so that when the tough times will come. We also had counseling in Nigeria. They asked us some tough questions. We met with some people that told us some very interesting things, but all we did was to try and make sure that we did it the right way. The right way was to do it with God, right? But we did it the right way. We didn't want to have regrets. We didn't want to spoil what we had going. And because we had known each other for such a long time, but we had not known each other that way, we had to get used to having ourselves in each other's spaces, digitally, obviously. So we'll call, we'll talk, and all those things. But it was a bit of a transition for me because I'd been so long out of a relationship. I had made some mistakes in my previous relationship, and I had also lost a little bit of understanding of intimacy and all those kinds of things, because I was a mentor and friend to many people, but that intimacy of a man and a woman that I want to be joined, right? I had lost a bit of touch with that, partially because I had been in a long distance relationship for so long, and then I'd been out of any sort of like romantic relationship for so long also. So it was a bit of a challenge for me to break out. I was talking to one of my pastors at some point, and when I initially made my intentions known to my wife. My wife's name is Amaka, by the way. When I initially made my intentions known to her, so she started texting and calling me a whole lot more than she used to. And I talked to one of my pastors. I'm like, what is she doing? Like, why? I only told her I'm interested in her. Why is she calling me so much? And he was looking at me like I'm the crazy person. But like it was a lot. It was a lot that happened, and in the next video, and I didn't want to compile and compress because I've been talking for so long already. But I didn't want to compile and compress every single thought into it. But I just want to share some of the principles, the foundations that we use to build that relationship. This is in pursuit of perfection. I'm not changing my video. This is not, it's not becoming a vlog. It's not becoming one of those things. I'm still focused on what it is that I do, and I just want to share with us some of the things that can help us build to be better. And going forward, there will be a bit more diversity in our topics, right? There will be a bit more diversity in our topics. I'm going to be talking about some things that I don't believe I ever spoke about before, and the reason why is that I'm inspired, right? I believe God moving me from that point in life to this point in life where I'm at now was to allow me the opportunity and experience to be able to say some certain things. And I believe that some of the things that we're going to be saying and I'm going to be talking about are things that touch at the heart of many issues that the modern believer faces, right? So our topics are going to be a bit more diverse. I'm still going to be talking about how to love your neighbor. I'm still going to talk about how to build yourself, build your character, build your relationship with God. We're going to be resuming our prayer series, right? Hallelujah. We're going to be resuming our prayer series. We'll be doing a prayer session every couple of months. And then we are also going to resume our regular programming, where we're going to be dropping a video every 2 weeks. And also we'll have, I'm working up the confidence, to interact more with shorts and things like that. I've never really been more of a short content kind of guy, but I think we're going to do some things in the realm of shorts. So watch out, watch this space, and let's see what God is going to do in and through all of us. So this is part one. This is just an intro, just me telling you, wow, like it's possible. Actually, it's possible to be single and go from single to married in 9 months. It really is possible, and it can work, right? It can work, but it takes conviction. It really does take conviction. I always tell people that love is conviction before feelings. It's a hard thing to say with the world that we are faced with, right? The world does not want to hear statements like that. But honestly, to love, to be married, to be in a proper kind of relationship, it is conviction before emotion. And I'm thankful to God that He was able to teach me that right before I met my wife. Because a lot of the decisions that we made, a lot of the things that we did would have been different if you had put emotions before convictions. But because you put convictions before emotions, everything just smoothly ran. There were some hiccups. We did have to pray a lot. But overall, it was a success. So yeah, this has been Tamno Prayers for bringing you the word, and I will see you in our next video where we are going to be talking about the principles that we've worked in to make the wedding work, and some of the things we are working in to make the marriage work. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'm back, baby. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.